If I come home and crack open a six-pack of beer or a couple bottles of wine or smoking a pack of cigarettes or smoking pot in the backyard, the kids see everything.
Right.
They see it all.
Yeah.
So leadership by example. So that's why I'm doing all these things. That's why my exercise is the way it is. That's why I'm eating the way I eat, because I'm a role model and a mentor or a guide for the people I'm working with. So if I'm
Hmm.
not doing that, if I came in weighing 50 pounds overweight with my belly over my belt buckle, am I really giving the right message? No. So it's leadership by example. And that's the whole thing we did with our kids who are 30 and 28.
Welcome to the Intentional Leadership Podcast, where we talk to highly driven, successful business leaders. Today, we are fortunate to have Barry Garapedian from Meg7 Consulting. Barry spent 39 years on Wall Street as a financial advisor and then decided it was time to focus on something entirely new and focus on the young people and give them the skills to have success. And one thing you don't probably know is he's a magician and has been at the Magic Castle in Los Angeles. He mountain bikes. He loves to spend time with his kids and his family. And just a crazy fun fact, he was in Alcatraz. He escaped and got some Ghirardelli chocolate, even though he doesn't like sugar. And so it must have been for his beautiful bride. Welcome, Barry.
Great to see you, Graham. Looking forward to a really good conference and conversation this morning.
Yeah. So why don't you start by just telling us about your journey? How did you get started as an entrepreneur, business owner?
Well, it started back in 1982, real quickly. I came out of college at a University of Southern California, started with E.F. Hutton,
Oh,
the
wow.
wirehouse, back in 1982. And in 39 years, built a multi-billion dollar business and assets under management. And I had the time of my life. And always, I started out very early as an entrepreneur, and I did things that very few advisors were doing. And it came from the mindset of being an entrepreneur and being more with results pay. So we weren't getting paid a salary.
Mm-hmm.
It was all based on getting results for clients. So it started very early when I was 22, 23. But even before that, my first job was 8 years old, working as an entrepreneur, invoicing neighbors, watering lawns, washing cars. And I was working my whole life.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it was part of the upbringing you had, right? That just you were
well,
expected
I
to
would
work.
think so. Both my parents were teachers. They're both
Mm.
educators. My dad was a professor in journalism. My mom was an elementary school teacher. And, the best lesson my parents gave me, if I had to think of one thing besides unconditionally loving us, is they believed in us. And
Oh,
they gave us the I believe button very early in my sister and my life and our lives. And having that ability to believe in yourself and have confidence was a huge value add.
yeah, no, that's a big one. So often that it's the parent pushes you down, or oh, I'm not sure you really should do that or can do that, and so just oh yeah, go for it. Let's go. We're here to support you. We'll catch you if you fall.
And we learned early, Graham, that it wasn't winning or losing, it was winning or learning.
Mm.
So the mindset was fail forward. And that was instilled, gosh, when I was a little guy, that it's okay to fall. And playing sports my whole life, like you're an outstanding athlete, you're going to fall. So how do you manage that? Or do you run away from it and not have these really big boy goals, which I know you have, and you've had your whole career in being a high level executive in the business that you were in. So for us, it was taught really early.
Right. So what, I mean, like you said, you just mentioned as a financial advisor, you're technically working under somebody else's house. E.F. Hutton, for instance, was where you started, and yet you're entrepreneurial. What were some of the things that differentiated you? What'd you do
Oh man,
differently?
a lot. So it started with understanding how to win the game of life. So winning the game of life was many things, but from a business perspective, uh, I led the country in new accounts for 3 years, from
Hmm.
1984 through 87. And I did something that very few people, advisors, were doing. Number one is I hired outside callers to make calls for me. I had a connector that would get people on the phone for me that had a British accent or a South African accent as a female. So there was a bit of a uniqueness with just the accent of someone getting the phone on for me. I was sending out 2,000 mass mailers a week.
Oh,
I had a robo computer making outbound dials of 700 a day. In addition to many other things, those were things that no one else was really doing. So we took it to another level, led the country in new accounts for 3 years, and then the revenue was another piece of the puzzle. That was in the top quarter of 1% for most of my career in revenue at about 8,000 advisors. That turned out to be 16,000 advisors.
huh.
So differentiating is the name of the game, but how can you do it where it's fun? And the mindset that I've always had is, how do you make it fun? So now through Genius Network, the narrative is easy, lucrative, and fun. ELF. How do you make it easy, lucrative, and fun? Which I know you're a Genius Network member. And I was doing that actually before that I even knew about that.
Probably before Joe was born. No.
Yeah, how do you gamify it? So
Right.
I always made things a game. I love keeping score. So measuring things that are activities. I never really focus on a result. I focus on process and strategic strategy. So if I was the first one in the office, that was a goal. What
Mhm.
time am I getting? So we would typically get in the office at 5 a.m. Pacific time. So what time do you get in? How many calls were you making? How many meetings were you doing? How many hand notes were you writing? There was probably 8 or 9 metrics that I would measure, but the key was doing it consistently.
Mhm.
And then if you were doing these metrics, it would equal a result. And the result was, in this case, bringing assets in. And that was the metric, is bringing people's money in that we would manage it.
Was this all in Southern California?
Yes, all in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Worked out here my whole life. Worked with a wirehouse, a New York wirehouse, my whole career, and never moved. E.F. Hutton was the name on the door when I first started, but then it turned into 25 different names over 39 years.
I know that drill. How many times I had the exact same desk and some bank merger, they came in and gave you a new business card. The same address, same phone number. It was just some different, a different logo on the cover. So
And the key is being different. The key is doing the right thing, taking care of your clients, having fun. But I love the human capital. I love the meetings, and I enjoyed people.
So I hear people, fun, and competitiveness. Is that kind of the three things?
I'm very competitive and making things a game. So if I had a goal to make 150 phone calls for the day between 8 and 4 o'clock, and then there would be another goal at night, because I worked Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday nights and half days on Saturdays for the first 5 years of my career, and made it fun. And we metrically measured. So if you were to come into my cottage right now, I have what's called a digital dashboard. It's a dashboard of metrics that I measure for wellness. So that's a separate dashboard. And then for business metrics is a separate business metric. So I like keeping score. Like here's a play sheet for the day. Oh. This is my play sheet of just for the day. Then I have a weekly play sheet. Then I have a monthly play sheet. And then I have a quarterly play sheet. So we break down the quarterly to the monthly to the weekly to the daily to the hour to the 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes on my day is accountable.
That's great. Well, and you're going to get so much more done that way.
And then wellness is a separate tablet. The goal for wellness is 20 hours a week of wellness. Of that wellness, 1/3 of it's recovery. So recovery would be stretching, yoga, airbags, ice, those kinds of things. And then the exercise would be broken up into cardio and then other things like lifting, tennis, those kinds of things. So it's very intentional. It's very structured. The swims, part of my process is swimming. So it's very structured on a swim of how many yards a week I want to swim. Then each workout's 3,000 yards. Of the 3,000 yards, what's the protocol? So I know going into a workout exactly what I need to do. Same thing with business. I know exactly what my target is, how many people I'm talking. Like today I have 8 meetings. So I know, and a meetings is usually 30 minutes.
Okay.
And the reason I don't go 30 is because attention span's 20 minutes historically. So if I'm talking too long, that's not good. So, 60 minutes is way too long.
Right. Yep. No, I agree. And so if you have are those, I assume those are both fully integrated so that your day, you have two sheets. Are they a wellness one and one for work? And
Yeah.
then
And
when
I
you get
measure
up,
I measure my wellness in minutes. So for
okay.
instance, the first thing I do in the morning is I have a strategy with everyone I work with called win the morning, win the day.
Mm,
So if we can win the morning, you win. So winning the morning for me is I get up at the same time, which is 4:15 a.m. Pacific time. I take a 2-minute ice cold shower to wake up. That gives me a 25-minute afterglow. I do my get myself ready. As I'm getting ready, remember I'm reading 2 books a month, so they're on Audible. So I'm listening to
mm,
an Audible in the bathroom, getting ready. I'm then going to my dressing room. I do a 20-minute abs routine, 20 minutes of abs and push-ups and sit-ups. I leave the house at 5 a.m., go to the pool, and in the pool, I'll swim 3,000 yards from 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning, 10-minute jacuzzi, come back, I'm ready to work at 7 a.m. Pacific. And then I usually have a workout in the middle of the day, like it'll be tennis or something in the middle of the day. Then I have another workout in the latter part of the day. So I break the day up into pieces where I'm working out 3 times a day. And that's purposeful because it oxygenates my blood. So
mm-hmm.
I'm rarely tired. And of course, I'm eating a very structured diet. So when I say structured, 80 ounces of water a day, specifically very little of any unprocessed foods or processed foods, and then intentional with my grams. I'm eating 162 grams of protein a day. So it's very focused on energy management and more focused on proteins versus carbs and fats, even though those are important. But, I don't really have a lot of time to eat a lot of crap.
Well, and nor should you create time for that,
And
right?
it's just really simple with like the mindset of a Ferrari. You don't put regular gas into a Ferrari. You put high protein, in this case, high octane in a car.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with my body. So, drinking a green drink, my water's right here. So anyways, the reality is it's very intentional, and all those things add up to being happy, positive, and then playing offense.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that not having to make those decisions really just helps make it flow and easier?
Yeah, it's just very easy. I don't have to even think about it. These are habits.
Mm-hmm.
So a habit, the definition of a habit to me is it's you don't negotiate with yourself. You just do it.
Right.
It's absolutely automatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
I agree.
Did I do my abs in the morning? No, it's automatic.
Right. No, that's good. Am I going to brush my teeth? Am I going to take a shower? It's automatic, right?
The cold shower is automatic.
Yeah. So good for you. So during this journey, I'm sure it wasn't just a straight line, exciting, everything was perfect. What challenges did you overcome?
There was a lot of fail forwards. The best way to learn is being in the seat, in the chair, learning how to deal with things that don't necessarily go your way. And I had a great ability to have amnesia to a point where it wouldn't affect me. So for instance, making 100, 150 phone calls a day with cold calls, 99% are going to be no's, not interested. So I had amnesia where I could just go to the next call or the next day. So sort of like Rafael Nadal in tennis. I mean, he'd play a 30, 40, 50 stroke point and lose it. Then he comes back the next point. And he's amazing. How do you do that? So there's a mindset that you don't focus on the negatives, you focus on the positives. So my strategy always was for every one negative episode, I had needed 3 positive episodes to offset, or I needed a 5-to-1 ratio to thrive. So to thrive, you need 5 positives to 1 negative. So the positives were built in intentionally. So a positive would be writing a hand note to someone. What does that do? Well, writing a hand note actually is cathartic and active. I call it an active meditation. So if I was writing you a thank you note, I'd be thinking of all the great things you've done, and I'd be highlighting those things about you. Doing that is very positive, and those kinds of things in a day are really, really good. So I write 10 handwritten notes a week. So if I'm behind, I'll have like 4 or 5 I need to write on the weekend. But think of it, you're writing a hand note in the end of the day. It's a pretty personal thing to write a hand note to someone, put a stamp on it, wax seal, do the whole 9 yards. It's quite a deal. And I do that. Like last year, I wrote 248 hand notes for the year. That's 5 a day. I want to kick it up more to 10 a day, 10 a week, excuse me, 5 a week. Last year, I want to kick it up to 10 a week.
Wow.
That's 40 a month.
Right. No, that's great. I used to do that. I used to be really good when I was a banker. Every day at the end of the day, like you, Brian Buffini, you remember him? He's still, he's actually a real estate guy. He has the best cards that I would buy him from. I talked my friends into, that were part of his coaching program. I'd talk them into buying the cards, and then I'd buy them from them. And it was great.
It works. It's not being done this in the time range we're in, because everything's quicker, faster with everything. So a hand note, old school, is very powerful. There's like 100% open rate. Wow. You do a hand note the way I do it,
especially the way you do it.
Stamps on the front. It's a real cool thing. But that is a positive endorphin zone that brings positive energy. Exercise is another thing that brings positive energy. Mm-hmm. I'd have a policy to call a friend once a day.
Okay.
And the call would be, hey, thinking of you. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing business related. It could be with anything else. So, if you do 7 of those a week, wow,
right,
that's positive.
Yeah, makes you feel good, and you can help them with something.
And also being in shape and eating the right foods is very positive. So, having the mindset not to be eating the wrong things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, good. So you're fueling your body both, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and
challenging myself with mental acuity of trying to create value for someone. So my narrative with anything, anywhere I go, I want to be a value creator. So there's 3 ways to create value. There's material value, there's emotional value, and there's spiritual value. So I will pick one of those depending on who I'm talking to, but my mindset is, how is that person suffering? How is that person how can I help him overcome something? And that will put me to the top of the pyramid of being valuable to that person, whether it's a book I'm recommending, or it's a nutrition I can refer to, or it's someone that in business that they need to see an accountant or an estate attorney or whatever. So my value add is, how do I help this person any way I can with no reciprocity? Mm-hmm. I am not expecting that person to do anything for me. That's very important, because if I expect that person to do something for me, I'm going to be disappointed, because 9 out of 10 people will not do reciprocity. They'll take, and I know that. So I am oftentimes taken advantage of. That's okay. I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it.
You and me both. Yeah, let's give, and that's perfect. So,
and it makes me feel good.
Right.
That's all. That's That's why I do it. And sometimes will happen, but I might send baseball tickets out. We're season ticket holders to the Dodgers, and I'll send tickets out just because I want to. They take their kid out, whatever. Great. I'm not expecting anything back. Hey, just send me a picture. Send me a picture, and that's all I need.
Did they raise the prices this year? Is how much money they spent?
Yeah, they did. They did raise the prices. So, but no, we love going to the baseball game. We have one coming up this weekend, first game. The opening season starts this Thursday.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking forward to being outside. I love taking my wife. We sit in the car. We're in traffic for an hour and a half to get there. And, it's just an event. And we bring our food in. We sit outside. We sit for 6-7 innings. We'll go home.
Perfect. So that's great date.
The attention span that I have and she has is limited. So we have a 2-hour window where we will take advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah. I 3 innings, 4 innings, and I'm ready to go. But...
Yeah, you're like me. We can go. We usually leave in the 7th inning, so we get there early. But anyway, I love baseball, and I love people. I love being around people who have a common thing. They're rooting for someone. I get to know every the people who are sitting in our seats and talk to them. And
that's great. Yeah. No, that's what's fun. So you talked about, okay, I want to help people. I want to give. And you were a financial advisor, and then you changed, you morphed, you said, okay, 39 years is enough. What was an impetus in that change? And then how did you, I'm going to say, I just thought of this right now, but how did you fall back on your roots and become a educator like your parents?
Graham, it was very serendipitous. I went through retirement thinking that I was done with the business. We had enough resources to live our lives the way we want to live, but I got bored and I needed fulfillment. And the fulfillment that I loved when I was in the practice is that we were involved in family governance and basically ran a boutique business authoring family constitutions for a family. And by doing that, I was able to be introduced to the family or the kids, or I call them young minds, 14 to 30. And I would work with these young minds, helping them with interviews, people skills, EQ, you name it, anything that they would have an issue with. And I said, I would love to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Work with the family governance, nothing with money, nothing with financial stewardship, all about working with families. And so we define what winning is. So my definition of winning the game of life is 7 things. And I call them the 7 F's. It's family, faith, friends, fitness, financial, fun, philanthropy. Those 7 pillars is my definition of winning the game of life. So in our Constitution, we have those 7 pillars as the primary pillars, and under each pillar, we have guidelines. And with those guidelines, there's your core values, your principles, your inner truths, all the things you know, but it's in writing. And then what we would do is once a month, we would send a group text out to the family members on one call to action in the Constitution every month. So we would keep it alive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an advisor. I'm staying connected to my clients. Not a transaction, nothing. It's all about a relational game. And we would send things out like, here's an example of a call to action. Any family member that goes to the airport, a family member must take a family member to the airport and pick them up. That's in our Constitution. We honor this. Another call to action would be any member of a family, young or old, sees a veteran, a policeman, a fireman, walks up to them and thanks them for the service.
Mm.
We have grandkids. We have a 4 and a 2-year-old. We have our 4-year-old doing this. Of course, daddy helps him. See that policeman over there? Walk up to him and thank him for the service. Little 4-year-old, thank you for your service. Kid doesn't even know, but we ingrain it early in our family, and this will become a habit when they're teenagers. That's another example. Another example is we believe in the system of merit, not entitlement. So we believe in healthy struggles. We want our kids to earn their own money. We provide, shelter, food, and toilet. That's it. And we gave them an education. Okay. But they're building their own businesses. When I sold the business, they were not involved on purpose.
Right.
So we believe in merit. Earn it. Show me. And so these are all written in the Constitution. So that's what we're doing now. And then I'm working with young minds all around the country, helping them craft to be amazing and differentiating these young minds. So the first thing we have them do with a young mind is we have them create a vivid vision board. And we have them put their vision board on their phone like this. That's my vision board on my phone, on my screensaver on my phone. So they can see it multiple times during the day and reminds them of things they should be doing, or inspirational things, or people or family members or whatever. So it starts with a plan, but we make it fun. Start with images, vision board. And then from there, once we dial back, we figure out things and we figure out how to build their brand as a young person. Who do you want to be? How do you want to dress? Who do you want to influence? How are you going to help other people? And we start with that narrative of value creation. So there's a whole process, and many of the young minds that I'm working with right now might have a depreciated self-esteem or depreciated self-worth, or they might have very low confidence. So how do you build confidence? There's strategies and tactics we have. In order to build more self-esteem, you need to have, you have to have accomplishments. It's that simple. So how are you going to have accomplishments or wins? We will put them in places where they can start winning or having accomplishments and build their self-esteem. however that is. It's different with every young person, but that's what I would probably say that's my superpower, is how to educate people to be more happy, more confident, and then give them actual tactics. So let me give you an example of a tactic that's we do all the time. This young mind is invited to a birthday party. And so I would have that young mind call the host or the hostess and say, look, I want to do a reel, an REEL, a reel, a video reel. And the young mind, and they get the blessing from the host, and that young mind is going to interview 50 people at the birthday party. And all he's going to say is, say happy birthday to you, Graham. And I go 3, 2, 1. The kid's gonna get his phone out. 3, 2, 1. Say anything nice about Graham and say happy birthday to Graham. The kid will do 50 of those. The kid will give me all the content. I have a videographer. We'll put that into a 4 or 5 minute reel with awesome music. Send it to the host as a present. The kid has now been elevated in that relationship. The kid is demonstrating leadership, but then the kid is also meeting 50 other people at the birthday party. Typically, the kid would talk to 3, 4, 5 people in a little group. Now he's empowered because he's doing this for someone else, and the kid will never, ever, ever regret this.
No, that's beautiful.
That's an example of a tactic.
Right. So if you present that to a 15-year-old kid, do you instantly get some pushback,
no
or
pushback.
they're just like, oh, that's cool, that's fun?
Because they're comfortable with their phone.
Right.
They're doing it for a better cause to, help the hostess out.
Right.
And they're going to gift this reel, this video. No one else is doing this.
Right.
So I'm differentiating the kid. And this is part of building confidence. This is part of building self-esteem. It's also getting someone to meet people, because another strategy is networking, which we talk about how we're going to build your network. This is maybe 2 or 3 of those people might be able to help you. They might know someone, or they might offer you an internship. So how are you going to do that? So you need to demonstrate leadership. This is a way of demonstrating leadership. Here's another strategy, another tactic I use frequently. The kid is going to be an author of a book. That's right, a little 15-year-old. And the book is called Profiles in Success. And what that young mind's going to do, he's going to interview 25 people in the country or their community. And let's say the kid's interested in, let's just say, for instance, we know Chris, supply chain logistics.
Right.
The kid will interview 25 people in the industry of supply chain logistics. He's going to take the phone and ask the CEO, in this case, how did you do it? Tell me your story. How did you get from here to here? He's going to use Otter. The kid's going to use Otter, transcribe the whole interview, give me the Otter. I will give the Otter to write a 12 to 1,500 word profile on Chris. We will then compile 25 stories of successful people in supply chain logistics of how they did it. That's going to go into a book called Profiles in Success. The kid's name will be on the book. That kid will now repurpose and give that book to other young minds to help them.
Yeah.
Do it all the time. Now, we can do it with AI, because 3 years ago, we couldn't do it. Now we have Otter and we have Chat GPT. We put through a chat custom model. I author it, do it. When I have authors here, take next to no time to do that. Now, if you don't have Otter.ai, taking notes would be virtually impossible.
Right.
Now, that's another tactic we use for young minds to get outside. Now, do you think there'll be 1, 2, or 3 people he might resonate with out of 25? Heck yes. Heck yes. And if someone came to you, Graham, and said, look, here's what I'm doing. I'm doing this as a philanthropic project to give to other young minds. I'd love to interview you. I want to hear your story, how you became so successful. You'd probably say yes.
Right.
It's at 95% yes when the kid presents it the way I scripted to the kid. And now the kid is getting more confident. Now he has to find the people. Find the people in your community. Okay? That's another tactic I have 18 tactics like this.
Okay. Was one
I
of my
have
questions
18
is how many tactics do you have and how long are you working with these
18.
kids?
So I have a book coming out April 29th. It's called Winning the Game of Life, The 7 Lessons You Never Learn in School, 18 Tactics. It's coming out April 29th. So that book has the tactics in it. So those are just 2 of them as an example. So it's gauged towards young minds, but it's also gauged towards financial advisors that want to grow a business, that want to bring in more assets. How do they do that? So I can help people with that, because these things most people aren't doing that I'm sharing.
Right. No, it's the traditional, hey, I'm going to go to the country club, hang out. Maybe somebody's retiring. I'll jump in and start calling on their people and just shuffle some money over. So
yeah, how about just this one tactic? This is another tactic called thinking big. I have everyone write down in what I call an impossible goal, something that's impossible. Yep. The key with the word impossible, it becomes possible if you use the word unless. That's another tactic.
Right.
Everyone has to have their impossible goal. That's another tactic. They think too small.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you thought significantly bigger? What's going to happen? Well, their confidence will go up. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to design a plan. So that's another tactic that is so simple. Another tactic is lightning strikes. A lightning strike is a term I use for exceeding someone's expectation on purpose. What if we were to create 2 or 3 lightning strikes a week? What's going to happen? Well, first of all, it's really fun to do this, but it doesn't cost money to do a lightning strike. You can call a grandparent up on the phone and just say, hey, I'm thinking of you, Grandpa. How are you? Or you could write a hand note to a friend or anyone. I thought we designed lightning strikes that don't cost money. So for instance, if you were to come to our house, Graham, my kids were here, we have a policy, really interesting policy. They take your keys from your car and wash your car. That's serious. We're into washing cars out here in Southern California.
Yeah.
They would wash your cars. They'd do the tires, armor all the tires, vacuum the inside. Dead serious. That's a lightning strike.
That is. Yeah.
Stuff like I have 25 lightning strikes I introduced to a kid that don't cost money.
Mm-hmm. Then
I have things that would cost money. I'd have them once a month. They're in line to get a coffee, Starbucks, say hi to the barista. Everybody has to know their name, the barista's name. Third person behind me in line, you buy them a cup of coffee and sit down and watch their reaction. They're looking around. Who did that? Once a month. Why? I want you to create a lightning strike. You just made their day.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have to pay the $7.50 for the coffee.
Right. That's
all kinds of stuff like that. I've got so many of those, but we're making it fun, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah. We're making it fun. And, a lot of it's networking, a lot of there's a lot of things. So my day is revolved on helping people get to where they want to be, whether it's writing constitutions, whether it's helping families with family governance. But I like really making the needle move. So let me define what I educate young minds on. It's called third vault.
Third vault?
Third vault. So The metaphor is when you go into a bank, there's the first vault, which is, in this case, the first conversation. It's all, did the Dodgers win? What is it? It's warm. It's a nice day. How are you? That's first vault conversations, relatively meaningless.
Right.
Then there's the second vault. The second vault involves storytelling about your own story. A little deeper. That's good. Second vault. Where we want to go is the third vault into conversations. That's about vulnerability, deeper conversations, things that matter, peeling the onion back and create value for that person. We want to be in a third vault conversation. So think of that bank. There's oftentimes many layers of vaults you have to get into to get to the real good stuff. So whenever I say third vault to a young mind, they know exactly what I'm talking. Are you getting to third vault?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. This is stuff that I did for years. The trick was to get into third vault conversations with your clients.
Right.
and you talk about the money, this, but then you get talking about family and the kids, and then really figuring out, hey, can I really help you? And then someone would ask me, hey, well, how do I look? I want to get in better shape. And I said, I can answer that question a couple ways. I can be brutally honest with you, or I can candy coat it. How do you want me to answer that question? He said, well, I want you to be brutally honest. Bill, you're a 43-inch waist. You're 25 pounds overweight. Let me get you a trainer. Because if you haven't done it now, it's not going to happen. We need to get you with a who. That's going to cost you $8,000 a year. Is it worth it for your health?
Right.
You have all the money in the world. I can help you. And I turn them onto a trainer or a dietitian. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But I would ask permission if I can be really truthful with them. And that's how you build credibility.
Right. Well, and that's why they're staying with you or stuck with you for so long, is that you didn't just work with them on making sure they had enough money and their stock portfolios grew, or that was diversified in large cap.
Yeah.
It was.
That's table stakes. Everybody does that.
Exactly. So you went deeper, you built that, you went into the third vault and maybe even the fourth and said, hey,
that's where the action is in the third vault, and truly helping people. And listen, I have no skin in the game. I want you to live a long life and have legacy and help your family. But you're 30 pounds overweight, which it implies to me is you don't have discipline. So if you can't do it on your own, you hire someone who can. Learn about your macros, learn about people. And I'm referring people to Whitney right now. Seriously.
Yeah.
She's my go-to. And, they do a good job. I did that lean life the first quarter last year. It was really, really good.
Right.
So with that, I learned a lot more about my diet. I was not eating enough protein. So,
same here. I wasn't eating enough calories. I was about 1,000 calories a day short and not enough protein.
So we still have a lot to learn. And that's why getting the right people on the team and build this virtual team, almost like a virtual family office.
Right. Good. So how long is this constitution? I mean, how long, not only is it, as far as how long does it take to build, how many pages?
Well, here's one right now. Here's a picture of one right now. This little book, leather bound.
Yeah.
It takes 1 hour. It's a 1 hour discovery. I would do. And then with that 1 hour discovery, it would take 2 weeks for us to do the first edit. And then it goes back and forth with edits. The hardest part is coming up with the crest. We will design a personal crest for the family. And so that I have an artist that actually does a freehand crest based on everything they want to see in the Constitution. So at the end of the day, it takes a couple months to be candid. But right now, financial advisors all over the country are using our services because they will pair it with a regular policy constitution or estate plan, and they pair it with their values, and it's the stickiness of doing something that no one else is doing, and then they have a deeper relationship with the family and the kids because I exec produce that and make the advisor look amazing. So if I'm working with an advisor, I know we could help them raise another $50 to $100 million of assets with this strategy. That's what I did. We were raising $100 million a year with dash dinners, which a dash dinner, and doing things that are different. Now that AI is here, AI does not do done, but AI does a lot of the work where it would be almost impossible for me to do what I'm doing right now.
Right.
I have 2 full-time employees, myself, there's 3 of us. We can do a lot of this. But with the young minds, I don't want to move away from the quality of face-to-face time. So I have a call with them once a week for 30 minutes, 30 minutes Zoom once a week. And so that's 2 hours. So the consistency of the repetition is vital. I could tell someone what to do, and if there's a month gap, it's not going to get done. So the consistency of the repetition is vital.
And so how long will you work with these young minds?
Minimum of 1 year.
Okay.
It has to be a minimum of 1 year. And oftentimes it's 2 or 3 years.
And where are they coming from? How are you finding them?
They're coming from financial advisors, which are my centers of influence. And they're introducing me to families that they have that they want help with their kids. So my sweet spot is estate attorneys and financial advisors. That's my market. And then they refer me.
Okay. And so these are kids that are coming up fairly affluent, I would assume, based on that. And they're having challenges, all of them, or are they, they're
Oh, they
not?
all have something going on. I have kids at
Hmm.
Wharton. I have kids at UPenn, Cornell. They're all different.
Yeah.
But let's take as an example, we might have some kids that have very, very weak EQ, emotional
Hmm.
intelligence, yet they tested a 5.0 GPA, but they don't know how to date.
Right.
They don't know how to be with other opposite sex. They don't know how to connect the dots. I have a third of my clients are that way. Then I have other kids that are extremely introverted and shy.
Mm.
I have another third that's very strong, bold, but they don't know how to use time management, or they don't know how to use energy management, or they're doing some of the recreational drugs, which they shouldn't be doing. And I know
Right.
how to taper that. I ask everyone, do they use cannabis? It's like drinking now. I mean,
Yeah.
so listen, let me just tell it to you straight. You want to be wildly successful. You want to bring in more high performance tools. Doing it when you're clean is hard. You want to do this when you're going to bring in smoking pot and drinking a lot. It's going to be extremely difficult for you to pull this off.
Right.
I'm just telling it to you right now. So let's figure out a way to mitigate and reduce what you're doing. And let's bring into reading 2 books a month.
Mm.
You say you have too much time on your hand, or you have too much screen time on your phone. Let's turn this into a positive. So I come right out with it.
Good. They need to
And
hear that.
typically I can reduce it or get rid of it.
Mhm.
By selling, you want to be this high performer, you want to be here, you want to have these nice things. How are you going to get it? And I'm going to advocate your mom and dad not to give you money, just so you know. That's my words to them. They'll give you the basics, but do you think that's going to make you happy, walking into X amount of money every month where you can just coast? Do you really think is that really what you want?
Mhm.
Ask you, look in the mirror. We're designing brand for you. We're designing the best version of yourself. Ask yourself right now at 18, 19, 20 years old, do you really want that? And if it is, I'm the wrong person for you. And I'll just give the check back to mom and dad because you're just not ready for me.
Right.
Seriously. And it's a pivot in their life because
Well, they've been given a lot, right? They've been given a lot over their 18
and,
years.
and you have the best thing mom and dad gave you is an education, and they love you unconditionally. But oftentimes mom and dad will give you too much because they're living of things they never had, and they want you to have these things they didn't have, and they're not helping you. The more they give you, the more they're taking away.
Yeah.
And I have to have a consult with the mom and dad because oftentimes the mom will be a helicopter mom doing too much, or the dad is a narcissist, which is not great. So I have those issues. Those are real issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so I keep on talking about healthy struggles. The kid has to have healthy struggles. Getting rejected is a healthy struggle. Not getting everything you want is a healthy struggle. Falling down is healthy. That's life.
Right.
If you do everything for your young mind, you're not helping them. That's not real.
But we have a friend that their son is in a fraternity at the University of Washington, and the moms created their own private Facebook group so that they could keep tabs on what was going on. And she joined it and really didn't like it because it was, they are now 18, 19, 20 years old. And then they put together decorating for Halloween. It's like, why would I decorate my son's fraternity for Halloween? If they want it decorated, they can do it themselves. And she gave
we want to be
pushback.
involved. At the end of the day, we look at resumes, we look at LinkedIn, we can help and fine tune, sharpen the saw, but we want buy-in from the kid because when you get on the street, it's a different world. Academics is one thing. You might be a great academic, but it's getting on the street. So those are the kinds of conversations we have, but we make it a win-win. Let me help you with this. Your son's going to be fine, but please let him figure out how to do some of these things.
Right. Yeah. Well, and she said that was it 20 or 30 of his friends didn't even know how to use the washing machine.
Oh, geez. Well,
it's like, wow, you're going off to college, and you gave them health and education and all sorts of other dysfunctions. It's just, it's unreal. So, we're doing it to ourselves. People are complaining. It's like, well, go look in the mirror. If the kids are the problem, then where did they learn these skills or not?
And the
learn these
best
skills?
teacher is a role model of show me. So if I come home and crack open a 6-pack of beer or a couple bottles of wine or smoking a 6-pack of cigarettes or smoking pot in the backyard, the kids see everything.
Right.
They see it all.
Yeah.
So leadership by example. So that's why I'm doing all of these things. That's why my exercise is the way it is. That's why I'm eating the way I eat, because I'm a role model and a mentor or a guide for the people I'm working with. So if I'm not doing that, if I came in weighing 50 pounds overweight with my belly over my belt buckle, am I really giving the right message? No.
Right. Yeah.
So it's leadership by example. And that's the whole thing we did with our kids who are 30 and 28. And I did a strategy with our kids, which is very sophisticated. I always brought other kids in because I was a Pepperdine career coach for years. I still am. We'd have other kids at our house. I'm talking to the other kid, but my son or daughter is there hearing it. So I'm not talking to my kid. I'm talking to this other kid, and they're hearing third party what I'm saying to them.
Right.
Brilliant strategy.
Well, I was just thinking it's also brilliant that you're talking to the kid of somebody else, because if, as a parent, it's hard to have some of these conversations. Hey, look, if you really want to be successful, quit smoking pot. Well, that's great as a parent. That's, they expect that from you. But if it's somebody that
things no one wants to talk about, Graham, and we talk about pregnancy,
right?
We talk about making choices, okay? And I'll have those conversations with the ladies. So, for instance, let's say the kids are dating. Everyone has to give me 20 characteristics of a partner they want to be with and 5 non-negotiables. We're going to have a plan for a lot of things. We're going to have a blueprint of the kind of person you want to attract. And I'll tell you, if you write them out and really put thought into it, and the 5 non-negotiables, like a non-negotiable will be, well, this person smokes fake cigarettes or a big partier or whatever. Those are things, there's no way you're going to be with that person if they have one of the 5. No way. No way.
Right.
They write them out. They give it to me. I share it with their parents. They say, oh, this is amazing. We now have a visual of what this person will look like or be. So it's very, very cool. I have that kind of strategy. But at the end of the day, the game is to be happy and to have fun. The game is to help other people. That is the underlying narrative, is to help other people.
Right.
And since I'm coming from a faith perspective as well, we talk about faith. We talk about, do you have faith in your life? How important is it? How often are you reading? Or do you have a Bible study? Are you doing anything there? If you do, great. If you don't, it could be something you look into. I don't push it, but I certainly talk about that. I have one of the 7 pillars is faith in our family, and having faith, and you're a faith person, obviously, it's an incredible advantage to have this in your life.
Right.
So we talk about that. Some people are spiritual. That's wonderful. Do you guys pray? Do you guys have a prayer when you sit down and have dinner? I ask these things, and maybe you can be the faith leader. Maybe you can be that person that has a prayer for dinner or lunch. Why not demonstrate leadership that way? It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out 5-minute thing. It can be 30 seconds, right?
Right. You don't want the food to get cold. Let's go. Yeah.
But this is the element of demonstrating leadership, and we can do it. So there's a variety of ways. It depends on the young mind we're working on. Our kids learned how to do a good prayer. Our kids are amazing. Well, they went to a Christian university. It helped. But oftentimes when we have dinner, I say, okay, Scotty, why don't you lead us?
Right.
Man, it's incredible. What a story. My daughter, boom, hello. That's at the minimal. You need to learn that. How to do a good prayer.
There you go. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
so anyway,
building these kids, launching them, getting them, to just believe in themselves, do good, and be great citizens. What an impact you're making. And that's
you just said the magic words, launching. I have some young minds that have a failure to launch. I call it failure launching. So how are we going to get them into launching into adulthood? 18, technically you're an adult. Legally, you're an adult. Yeah. So some kids have a failure to launch or deferred launch. Just a deferral. Doesn't mean they can't do it.
Yeah. No,
And let's start with cutting your hair. Let's start with dressing more appropriately. Let's start with having to be more interested versus interesting. It's not all about you. These are basic things, but I could x-ray the soul. I could peel the onion and get right into third vault very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I have a client whose 31-year-old child just moved back, and he was questioning me on, because we have kids the same age as you and same age as this, this one. And he's like, well, what'd you do differently that yours didn't come back? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's go through this. But, he was frustrated, thought he was a horrible parent. And,
Wow.
this kid just can't keep a job. And they didn't teach him that piece of it. They didn't teach him that you need to show up on time or early even and stay late, and being an hour and a half, if you're supposed to be at work at 9 and showing up at 10:30, you're letting everybody else down. You're not, who cares if you get your work done? You're letting the other people on your team down. And so,
That's such a great comment. I was with strategic coach Dan Sullivan in 1997 for 4 years. And one thing he had called the reliability habits, which are show up on time, do what you say, finish what you start, and say please and thank you. Pretty basic stuff. Most adults don't do that, right?
right.
So that's one thing they learn. But I think in closing here, we got another 8 minutes. I think at the
Yep.
top of the hour, we got to move on.
Yep.
But in closing, if I could put my energy into one thing, what would that be?
Mm-hmm.
And I would think it really comes down to the I believe button, the self-belief.
Okay.
Is that when you have self-belief and confidence, life's a lot easier. So not easy to get it, but I think if I looked at my life being version 6.6, I'm 66 years young, it starts with being confident. So how do we build self-esteem? How do we build confidence? How do we build that you believe in yourself? Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you possibly market or sell something else?
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
So I think that you start there and build that foundation, and there's ways to do it. That's why there's many different strategies how to do it, but it starts with having a plan and having an advocate who believes in you. Another thing we do with a lot of young minds is we have them build their own personal advisory board. So a personal advisory board would be 4 other superpowers and yourself. So a kid and then 4 other superpowers. So a total of 5 people. Goes for 1 year. You meet monthly for 30 minutes on Zoom. And these are advocates that have superpowers in other areas. So it could be a dietitian. It could be a faith leader. It could be a professor. It could be some kind of workout person. And so the kid has this advisory board for him. It's all about the kid.
Right.
And I help them exec produce it of what the strategy should be or the foundation should be. Love it.
Yeah.
All these other boards you're part of, hey, why don't you have your own board? And you'll cherry pick. It can't be your mom and dad. It has to be other people besides mom and dad on the board. And it works really, really. And
That's great. Yeah.
if they want to be a better person. So that's another tactic of my 18.
That's coming out April 29th.
April 29th. Yeah. So I have the books, but I have a publicist that we're getting it all out. And but no, it's actually really, really good stuff because these are things that I've done. These are things that I actually did for 39 years that, and I was also going around the country. I was one of the top producers. So I would go around to other offices, other parts of the country, and doing presentations in front of other advisors how to build their business. So I do like that element of growing a business. So I'm doing some of that right now with other advisors and, things that they didn't even think of doing, like a dash dinner. But, how to be different in a really good way and have fun.
Right. Have fun, I think, is important. Some of us have gotten steering away from that right now, that work can be work and fun at the same time.
Yeah. And have the intention to make every person you meet the most important person in the room. That's another mindset I give with the young minds is that $1 million racehorse analogy Joe Polish uses to taking care of yourself. Well, what if you were to treat everyone as that most important person in the room? Whether you're going through a parking lot and the guy's at the little box and he opens up the gate for you. Hey, just take 5 seconds and say, hey, thank you. Have a great day, Bill or whatever. it's a mindset that
Right.
it's about other people.
Right.
Someone serving you coffee, a waitress. Clearly, one of my rules is first thing when you sit down, find out that waitress's name, have a conversation with her. Pretty
Right.
basic, but
Yeah,
a lot of
it
people
is.
don't do it, right?
Yeah. How do people get a hold of you? What? Who?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is I'll give you my phone number. It's 818-427-6109. Then I have a web email, which would be Barry at Meg7Consultants.com, and reach out to me, and I'll see if I can give you some value. See if I can
You can give a
some
lot of value. So
tips
if people reach out, then
to make
they're
make your life
seeking it.
even better
So,
than it is right now. But this is great, Graham. Really enjoyed talking with you and sharing and collaborating. I mean, an hour has gone by pretty fast.
that was fast.
We
Yeah.
talked about a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of tactics here that you are doing that you take for granted what you've done to build such a successful business for yourself. But these are things that are not taught in school.
Right.
What you're doing is not taught in school. What I'm doing is not taught in school. So how do you learn these things? Well, you need to be around people like yourself who are high performers like you that can learn from you.
Well, and that's why I wanted to get you on here, because of all your tactics and everything you're doing. It's fabulous.
Well,
People are
it's
not doing those.
absolute pleasure to be with you today, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Yeah. Likewise.